Why, hello there, Pen Warriors. Shams Nelson here from Pen and Blade, and welcome to a map Monday, the first map Monday, perhaps the last. That is the mystery. Shall I continue? Shall I be consistent? We shall see. This is a follow-up video to the 9 fun ways to use elves in your D&D campaign, where I come up with all sorts of elf ideas, and I thought it would be cool to try to incorporate some of them in this map. And I'm trying out a new style. If you like the style map, let me know. Maybe I can do a tutorial on it. I'm actually really digging it. It was really fun to do. And yeah, so I've already kind of laid out a few things and I have a general idea for this region, but I'll also be using the random region generator over yonder on the left side here to get a couple new ideas and see how this map evolves. But to begin with, I'll give you an overview of what I'm calling the Starstone Forest. And see these purple dots here, and this big one over there, these are all where this starstone, so some kind of meteorite, but maybe it came from another realm instead of outer space, because it has a quality to it where it enhances the magic abilities of any user who imbues it or who possesses one. So maybe it allows you to cast levels as a higher level spellcaster. That could be the mechanic. And also it can be infused in metal alloys, and perhaps it creates these magic weapons that are +2, +3 even. So it's this very valuable resource, and it's only found here in what is called the Starstone Forest. And so I'm gonna, like, this is one of the reasons why this forest is so protected by the elves that live there, and also the internal strife that has been brewing in this valley between the different elf clans. So the first important feature I wanted to discuss before we get into the randomization side of it is this wall right here, and these are also towers. And it's basically set up to be an impenetrable defense against any outsiders who would try to approach the valley. And mainly this would be the way to come. And it's this, there's an open gate here, but the main thing that stops anyone from entering are the highly skilled elvish archers who are posted all along the wall. And from many leagues, or I don't know if leagues is the right word, but from a far distance, if you get anywhere close, they will be raining arrows down at you. They won't be raining arrows because they're so precise. And these arrows might also be created from this starstone. So it would be extra damaging. And in addition, they have enchantments to their arrows. So it's very difficult for any outsider to get in there. And so the main source of starstone is this large crater here, where the biggest chunk of starstone has fallen and is being mined by the high elves of Starvale. So they're kind of the capital of this region, and they protect this area. And there's even because it caused this divot, which would be filled with water, they've kind of carved out this uh, irrigation channel so that the water will flow out of there, and probably use magical means to pump it out as well. And so you can imagine that this is a pretty industrious operation, and you could probably buy Starstone at a very high price, but I think the elves are mostly hoarding it for themselves because they covet this treasure. We also have Belderain, Black Moon, and Red Swallow. These are going to represent the kind of capital cities of the different elvish clans, which we'll get into in a moment. There's also Tarbata, which is the elves who have, so this starstone has caused internal strife amongst the elves because they all covet it and they began fighting over it. Sort of civil war has broken out over this coveted resource, and the elves who have decided not to be part of the civil war, who don't want to be fighting their elvish brothers, have fled or left the forest and actually moved in with some dwarves who are huddled into this mountain. So this is an interesting settlement where elves and dwarves live in peace is a good they are in peace, but they don't necessarily get along. So it's an interesting mix of cultures. There's some tension there, but there's also a growing respect between the two peoples, and there's a mutual benefit. The elves perhaps are teaching the dwarves some of their craftsmanship knowledge, and the dwarves, who appreciate fine craftsmanship, of course, are happy to be able to increase their skills. And so Tarbada probably has some of the most like the best craftsmen and finest items, armors, weapons, and such that can be found in all of the lands. But again, since they've broken off from connection with these guys, they kind of have to stay huddled in here, and perhaps they'll go down river and to do some trading. But even so, the river will be watched over by the Belderain, who have a I would say shaky alliance with the elves of Starvale, because they do watch over this wall, but the wall maybe was commissioned by the Starvalian elves, so because they are the most wealthy, and so they have this. They're kind of employed by the elves of Starvale to watch over the forest's borders. So this gives you a general idea, and we'll get into Black Moon and Red Swallow in a little bit. But let's see what kind of monsters might dwell in this forest. So first off, the Centaur. They're the local regional creatures, intelligent creatures that live and have clans throughout. And I think that maybe the Centaur should be allied with one of these four clans. So let's actually use north, south, east, and west and see which clan they would be most likely to, though they're most closely aligned with. So where we have this over here, generate text. Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to, it's hard to use this when oh, I think I kind of messed it up by adding that extra parentheses. How can I refresh this page? Got too much going on here. Go. Okay, we're going to refresh the page, and as we do so, I'll tell you a little bit about the Black Moon. So the Black Moon elves are the wood elves that are contenders to the elves of Starvales. They don't believe that the way that this resource is being handled is to the benefit of all elves. You see, they've kind of almost become this rebel force that is at war, I would say, with the other elves, but at the same time want the best for the elves as a whole. So they fight the other elves, or they quarrel with them, but in the interest of actually building a overall peace between them all. So it's interesting. I'm wondering how that actually could work out. Now this isn't refreshing for some reason. Let's try creating a new tab. Maybe that'll get it going again. There we go. So the Centaur are going to be allied with the Belderain. Okay, so maybe the Centaur have actually been bought out as well. They also realize the value and maybe the futility of fighting with these very powerful elves. And so they've allied themselves with the Belderain, and I'm imagining that maybe even there are some Centaur encampments. Would they be outside of the forest, or right here along the edge? But the Centaur dwell in this region and are kind of like the ground forces that are also sworn to protect the forest from outsiders. So let's go up here in Black Moon and let's give the mountain a name. That could be interesting. So we'll come up in here and we'll cut this. Oh, see, that's the problem. Cut. Can't. Oh, there we go. And so the mountains can be called Cove Finger. Cove Finger. Interesting. Finger Cove. Nothing's really coming up for me there. Maybe I'll regenerate. There's no Orange Pirate. Orange Pirate Mountains. So what could that potentially indicate? The pirates, the Black Moon could be considered sort of pirates, stealing the starstones where they can, and perhaps there's one where their banner is this orange color, and they perhaps are even the most violent of the Black Moon. So the Black Moon clan actually wants peace, but the ones who have said that these other elves have, disgraced all of the elven people and actually have no regard, respect, or love for these other elves. They are the ones, and perhaps these elves are both high elves, but the Red Swallow are another band of wood elves who also have formed a sort of alliance with Starvale, but again, it's more of a necessity because the Starvale elves are so powerful, and they man these towers over here and keep anyone from trying to come up this side of the river and cross over. So as you cross the river, again, these arrows will be able to take you down at a very far distance. So it's extremely difficult to penetrate into this forest region. Let's go ahead, and so we've got the Orange Pirate Mountains, and maybe we can name this main river. Let's see what that might be called. Ice Devil River. The Ice Devil. Okay. So what could be a creature that would be known as the Ice Devil? That's very intriguing. I think that I'm imagining some kind of like aquatic creature, and there could be like these kind of mermaid type folk, but they have some kind of ice enchantment to them. So I'm not sure how that would work exactly and what exactly their relationship with the different elves around here might be. Let's say that the Ice Devils are led by a certain class. So we can come over here, and that'll give us a little more flavor. So fighters. So the Ice Devils, they're not really devils. That's what they're called. That's the translation of what they're called in the Elvish tongue. But it makes crossing these rivers at any point very dangerous because they consider themselves the oldest beings in the land. And I was thinking of actually starting to draw some portraits. So maybe we can see what comes up if I try to just doodle around and come up with what an ice devil might look like. But these creatures could be, not pretty looking, and that's what partially gives them their name, and they're also fierce warriors. So what if they have this kind of like a tentacle beard, and maybe they're actually quite wise. This guy's giving me a bit of a wise vibe. And maybe they have long ears, and they could even be like an offshoot of an elvish species. So long ago, the elves were one people, and some went to live in. This could be one of the like original lands of the elves, and some of them ended up living in the forest, being land creatures, but the other ones learned to dwell in the waters, and so they consider themselves like more of the even original. Perhaps they all began in the waters, and then the world was a great sea. And as the waters dried up, some of the elves like transferred or transformed to land creatures. Right? I think they could have some cool kind of tattoos or like markings on them. And they're these kind of like arcane beings. And so perhaps even the Starstones are connected to them in some way. Like they understand that the Starstones are sacred, a sacred material from a realm that they all came from, and that's why maybe it's particularly powerful when used by elves or those who have Fey ancestry. So these, what are they? Ice devils. And they should have a cool elvish name like Eladrai. That's cool. Let's call them the Eladrai. Well, I'm recording this video, so I won't write it down, but hopefully I'll remember it for the rest of the video. So the Eladrai are these original ancestors to the elves, and they dwell in the waters, and are they have taken upon it their task to preserve the sacred nature of both the Starstones and the elves. So they will be most likely to be sympathetic to those elves who have left to Tarbata, because they also have that incentive to want to preserve the peace and tranquility and righteousness of the elves. Cool. That's interesting. So the red swallow, I'm imagining them as like a mercenary group of elves, like very militant. Let's see, well, they might be led by a barbarian. Perfect. So the red swallow elves are like the barbaric elves. Let's draw the leader of the red swallows. We'll give them quite a like square jaw for an elf. I'm kind of using this bad bucket style. If you have know about my Pencil Power YouTube channel, then you may have come across the video where I teach you guys how to draw in this very simplified but cool bad bucket style, where the eyes are like these slits, and it's a really fun way to start to draw faces. That's a lot more simplistic than it can be when if you're not deeply studying anatomy. I'm not loving the way this guy's looking so far. Let's see, how can I give him a little more character? Maybe give him some of that, like this barbarian. So maybe a barbarian bun with like no hair on the sides. That could be like a typical hairstyle. So, and then I think that the eyes can be a little more, yeah, there we go, a little sharper, a little more attitude there. So the Red Swallow clan, yeah, and let's give him a scar, that looks cool. The Red Swallow clan is led by this barbarian. Most of them are rangers and barbarians, of course. Don't make his neck too thick because he's still an elf. See, I think that he's lost the elven thing. I think I can still give him a barbaric look without that square jaw, or I'll have him have a narrower face, but the jaw squares at the bottom. Let's see how that looks. Cool. So we've got the red swallows here. And I'm thinking that let's kind of mix it up and give them an alliance with a certain type of creature as well. So we'll go here and we'll go ahead and put a monster. Goblins, perfect. So the red swallow have formed an alliance with the goblins, who usually dwell up in the mountains. They have a hard life in the mountains. There isn't very many resources, while the woods are plentiful. There's lots of game and berries and foods and foliage to forage and eat. And so in forming this alliance with the goblins, they kind of serve the red swallow elves, but at the same time, and in return, they get to live in the forest without being hunted by the elves, which is what would have happened before if they tried to enter the forests. The elves didn't look kindly upon goblins. And the elves of Starvale, being high elves, do not really appreciate this like alliance, but because the Red Swallow elves have agreed to serve, the greater cause of keeping outsiders outside the forests and everything like that, they reluctantly put up with this goblin alliance. I wanted this to be a clipping mask. Oops. Oh well, whatever. I'm just gonna leave it. It's fine. I just won't draw outside the lines. So this guy can be. Let's give him a cool name. What could be his name? He can be. Well, I think he should just have a cool elvish name, but it could translate to something. So, Karadan, Karadrian, Merfala. Merfala means. Uh, let's see what Merfala means. Let's randomly generate that. So we'll do. Oops. We will do. Where is it? Place. We can use a place name for that. Berry tooth. Maybe toothberry. Merfala toothberry. Because his clan. You know what? It's just a weird name. It's just a weird name, and perhaps they cultivate many berries, or he has a monopoly over the berry agriculture industry in this region. His family is the toothberries, right? Cool. What else can we do to flesh out this region a bit? Maybe we should actually, instead of, well, like a lot of times cultures can be shaped by the other cultures that they have interactions with, because they're kind of defined in a way that is in relation to other people. So if there was no other people, you wouldn't know if you're more, you know, sensitive or just or aggressive, or let's see. So let's say that there's the main race that lives in the south and that also covets the Starstone is the gnomes. Interesting. So the gnomes are also, I think, have fey ancestry. So it makes sense that they would be drawn to the power of the Starstone, and being innovative types. They're like, we shouldn't just use these Starstones for weapons. Like, the Starstone can be used to, enhance the quality of life. And the gnomes are considered to be more, as we were saying, like comparing the red swallow elves in particular, or the elves in general, but the gnomes can be considered more, and I'm going to randomly generate, stoic. So the gnomes are actually more stoic than the elves. The elves perhaps are very emotionally driven, as you can see by like what we've talked about, that they don't necessarily like, there's a lot of pride in their decision making process, and a lot of desire. But the gnomes are very much more like practical, and they're like, look, this is what we can do with the starstones. If we start to understand them and utilize them properly, everyone will benefit. And we're very kind of like serious and want to do research. So the gnomes, potentially, I could see them even trying to dig underneath the wall, with these gnomish machines or other allegiances with subterranean creatures, and in doing so, just kind of like pop up in random spots in the forest and try to collect the starstone. Because as it came in, this is the biggest meteor, but as it hits the atmosphere, little pieces flew off, and so there's you can find like little gemstones like just by themselves, or like larger chunks here and there, kind of intermixed. So if you explore the forest, chances are you'll come across a starstone at some point or another. Actually, let's give this guy a cool, maybe this is like an antler. I don't know. Or should that be his bow? I don't know if the spike thing is working here on this guy. Actually, it's kind of cool. Let's leave it. Let's just leave the spikes. I don't know what they're exactly attached to. Maybe he has like a spiked shield that he carries on his back. That would be pretty epic. Okay, cool. So we've got these guys who, I've already forgot their names, but these ice devils, whatever they're called. And then we have our a, a toothberry, the leader of the Red Swallow clan. And I wish there was a way that I could, maybe this will be a random roll chart that I'll work on, is relationships. So I could say like Black Moon and Starvale, and then like roll something and say, okay, this is the relationship between them. And it could be aggressive, kind. So that could be a cool thing to add, maybe to the RRG, or I'll just create another roll chart and use regular dice. But let's see if I can kind of approximate that by using this quality. So yes, there's a childish relationship between, like I was saying, Black Moon and Starvale. And Black Moon is like the little sibling and has always wanted to be as cool and as good as their brothers, and that's what has really sparked this controversy. And they're much smaller, so these are relatively small populations. Starvale perhaps utilizes the goblins that have made an allegiance with Red Swallow to do the mining in this area because they're not keen on manual labors being high elves. So they have this kind of goblin army and workforce that keeps them uh, able to stay like one step ahead of Black Moon. And then they've also formed this alliance with the Beldarain, who have kind of conceded to be the defenders of this wall. And so the Black Moon are really this like little sibling who wants to rise up and become the Starvale of this region. And so they probably are talking with the Tarbata because I think most of the Tarbatan elves, as they're called now, were from the Black Moon clan. There are some who came from Beldarain and Starvale and even Red Swallow, though very few from Red Swallow because they're a more militant and prideful group of elves. So it's a really interesting melting pot here. But the Black Moon, if they can get the Tarbatans to join, especially with the dwarves, then they could take Starvale and maybe even like lay siege. So surround Starvale with all their forces and just wait them out. But that would be very difficult because with the amount of magic and stuff, and this kind of goes back to that elvish siege idea from the last video, perhaps they'll end up, holding out there for hundreds of years and never actually being able to penetrate the walls of Starvale. But the Black Moon also want to recruit races or recruit people from other races outside of this, and so that you can sneak in, and perhaps they sneak out and send emissaries to these other places looking for powerful adventurers to join their cause. And one of the most powerful adventurers that they've been able to recruit is let's roll a random race and class, a human paladin. Interesting. And perhaps this paladin has been has seen the wisdom. So his goal is to do righteous and to serve all the people, all of the people of the earth. And maybe outside of these lands, it's really rough. People are living in poverty. There are creatures like evil, like powerful creatures that are all in these lands, and that's why they are building these walls and keep this area so insular because it's one of the few areas that isn't infested by all these dark creatures. And you can let me know what creatures you think would be the most challenging to deal with. But imagine it's just a rough situation and a rough land. So the human paladin, I'll go ahead and start drawing him. Why not? Is has kind of teamed up with the Black Moon elves and is training them to, or is able to provide like this support that they wouldn't have had. Let's actually make him, for some reason I'm imagining him as like a thinner type, not necessarily the bulky paladin in terms of the way he looks, but he's like great healing powers, an excellent tactician, and a high level paladin, so he has like the skills that you need to lead a force. He's a very, I think, also a stoic individual, but actually let's find out. Let's kind of randomly roll him and let that inform. So we'll make him personality and amount quality. Let's try that. So he's dramatic and weirdly childish. That is the last thing I was expecting. So potentially then he is more of like this eccentric paladin, and that's what led him to this cause, because he was like very much like, this is an outrage. The elves cannot keep this what's it called, this valuable resource all for themselves. They are have an obligation to share. So he's dramatic in this, like, I'll throw a tantrum, childish, but in a righteous way. He has this righteous fury that bubbles up within him. But then at the same time, he's also just very passionate. So if you catch him at a party, he'll be he's kind of the life of a party. Maybe he drinks too much every so often, and it surprises people because usually he's so kind of like altruistic, and you'd think like he'd be very reserved in his mannerisms and such. But no, he's a little bit of a party animal, and kind of always able to always having a, like, there's always a surprise, and that's one of the things that makes him such an excellent tactician, is that he thinks outside the box and takes chances. I'm almost thinking he's got this also like a general, like the custard, sort of like this headlong bravery and like sense of invincibility. He never backs down, and he'll take like arrows from elves, but he'll heal himself because he's a paladin, right? So let's give him some like kind of unkempt hair, maybe like a little bit of an Einstein vibe, where he doesn't really like take too much stock in his appearance, and he's maybe always poring over old elvish scrolls. If he loves to learn, he's pretty smart paladin. Um, like I said, he's got a very strategic and uh, like strange mind, and this is one of the reasons too that the Starvale elves don't like the Black Moon, because they don't believe that they should be bringing other races into this internal conflict. This is our guy over here, and why don't you guys give him a name in the comments? I'm curious what you'd call a fellow like this. But here's our paladin, who has teamed up with the Black Moon elves. And let's do just a little bit more. Let's go one more random roll thing and see what comes up. I really love the random region generator. Makes things like, I would not have taken this idea in these directions if it wasn't for that resource. And you know what? He should have a Starstone in his sword, because that's epic. So we'll give him a little bit of color. We'll give him this light purple, which is the color I've designated for these star stones. Nice. Epic little fellow. Or epic, not little, paladin warrior. Okay, cool. So what is the last, and are these also star stones? That was supposed to be like kind of like a shiny looking thing, but maybe those are also star stones embedded in his pauldron. So he's got a bunch of these star stones, and they give it to him because they know he's just going to run straight into battle at a moment's notice, and they want to keep him alive because maybe there is even like a prophecy that a human will be the one to bring the Black Moon elves the glory that they finally deserve. There's some one of their oracles, or there is a vision of some sort by one of the priests or paladins that saw this, and so they've kind of assumed that he will be the one. So they're kind of decking him out and making sure that he's got all the resources he needs to make this prophecy come true. Nice. Here we got this guy. We've got these ice devils. So let's kind of bring in the ice devils a little bit. Who are they most allied with? So right now they're kind of like against all of the people, and we talked about them perhaps being most closely aligned ideologically with the Tarbatans. Let's maybe actually do a dwarf. What about the Tarbatan dwarf who is the most like involved or has the greatest sway? Well, okay, yeah, why not? Let's give him a class and the personality. So a dramatic, extremely warm-hearted monk. A lot of dramatic folks in this region, as you can see. It's a very passionate area. This Starstone Valley, perhaps, is a good name, or the Starstone Woods, both of them. The Starstone region. So that's what it'll be called. And so he's extremely warm-hearted, is why he has welcomed in the elves, because most of the dwarves, and he's a monk, so he has a dedication to certain values like compassion and kindness. So let's go ahead and start drawing him while we're chatting about him. And he really wants a peaceful resolution to all this. That is his greatest desire. He doesn't want to see this end in bloody warfare, but he's kind of powerless. Like, all he can do is help the refugees who also agree on this level, but he doesn't really have the, any way to influence the elves to actually follow along and take this point of view. But that's where, diplomacy and more of like speechcraft and potentially forming alliances. So perhaps he sends groups of adventurers or dwarves to the Belderain and kind of is like, look, if you guys were to decide to open up the forest, you are stronger, than the elves of Starvale. They have the resources, but you have the numbers, and you have the like best archers in all the woods. And so, wouldn't you rather be remembered in the great history books for all time, for many ages, as the elves who helped to bring civilization to another, to the next to the next age, the age of the Starstone, where there's like kind of like that would be like the industrial revolution for this for these lands, if they were able to get the Starstone primarily in the hands of the gnomes, who they would be able to study it and build it into uh, what is it, altruistic or beneficial technology that would serve everyone and usher in this new age. So that's the goal of our warm-hearted monk. Can we give him a name? Let's see if this if using the place generator here. And so this would be another thing that could be cool to add to the RRG, is like name generator um, function. Even if, and then like there is that fantasy name generator website, so that is pretty cool. But it'd be cool to do our own. Passage veil. What does veil even mean? I know I put it in there, but I don't even actually know if I mean veil passage. Well, he is maybe his name is Veil Passage. That's I'm not sure if I like that. Valeric, or in a passage has sage in it. So I don't know. Sometimes maybe I've expended my creative powers for one video, because usually something will come to mind. Let's generate another one. Silver lightning. Oh wow, okay. Well, I imagine that he has this, his beard is a silver color. Oh, and then these are lightning. So maybe he's as quick as lightning. Okay, let's go with that. And of course he's got a dwarvish name, but it translates to like to silver lightning. So he's like um no, that sounds orcish. Um Dalreg silver lightning, which is like Harag Haragdiam, but that translates to silver lightning. And so, and he, actually has a starstone as well in his crown. So he's, like the most important people in this region probably have a starstone. I mean, they're not that rare for this area, and that's part of the issue because they're like, look, this is actually a fairly plentiful resource. It's not like there's just one or two starstones. So why can't we all, share this resource? So let me get rid of the RRG because that's going to be the last randomly generated, and we're going to give this guy his silver hair real quick, and then we'll probably call it a day. I'm curious if this has sparked any other ideas, and I'm also kind of wondering if there were any other uh, ideas from the elf video that I did that I want to incorporate in here. So perhaps the elvish games, right? So there was a whole thing about how the elves, think that they're superior, and that's why they deserve to have this starstone all to themselves. But maybe through his keen diplomacy, so this guy's got like really high charisma and persuasion. So he was able to kind of even use the high elf's pride. So he had a meeting with the elves, with the king of Starvale, right? The queen or king of Starvale, the leader, and was able to, basically insinuate that, well, if the elves are so much better, then why not have a contest? And if the elves win, then and they'll kind of like make it fair. So they'll say, okay, look, we deserve to have the Starstones, but if another race can defeat us in these contests, and even the elves decide what the contest is, then we will allow um, we will start to sell the Starstone or trade or allow people to come in and um, get some of the Starstone. Maybe that's it. It's even like just sell the Starstone to the outsiders. They'll pay for it. They're not asking you to like give it away for free. Everyone will benefit. But they don't even want to do that because they consider themselves superior, and they feel that the Starstone shouldn't be shared with these lesser races, right? So he convinces them to have a contest and to invite an open contest. Whoever shows up can show up and compete. And if the elves are defeated, then to open up trade negotiations, like to allow some more Starstone to be circulated throughout the world. And so that could also be an interesting way to. I wonder who would win. Would the gnomes be able to? Perhaps even the Tarbotan elves would come out. The different elves would be represented there. The five clans: the Tarbatans, the Black Moon, the Belderain, and the Red Swallow. But maybe the Red Swallow and the Belderain would be expected to compete on behalf of the Starvale elves, but with a little bit of persuasion and political skill, this lightning sage over here would be able to, or silver lightning monk would be able to convince them that they could actually benefit to compete against the Starvale elves. And technically, the Starvale elves have said that anyone can join as like a representative, so they would be held to that and be kind of obligated by their own honor, by their own system, to allow the other elves to compete to see who is the best of the elf clans, even, and who should control this resource. So it's interesting. It's still, you know, there's some ideas there. I'm not sure if it's fully fleshed out, but I think that's a nice place to leave it for now. And I'd be curious what you guys take away from this, and if you um, feel that, you know, if you have any other ideas, definitely let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you're coming up with and what resonates with you. Oh, here, multipliers, whatever. With the little shadows there. This guy's cool, man. I like this little fella. And I think I'll leave it at that. So until next time, peace, God bless, and stay fantastic, everyone.